I'm excited to be talking some Beavis and Butthead.
All right. Yeah, I just to give you the rundown, I usually go about an hour with this. Do a quick intro you. Luke will run down the plot today, actually cribbed from Mission Log style. Um, and at this point, we just kind of ramble on, and I'll kind of maybe just move the conversation a different way as a note to myself later, just to edit there. So.
All right, sounds good. And just a heads up, and I apologize in advance. An hour is perfect. I will have to flee as soon as we're done because I got to scarf down some dinner and then do Mission Log Live.
No problem. Thanks for
I
coming
won't be
on.
able to hang around for an after party, and I apologize. I usually can hang out for a little bit.
That's fine. No, we sometimes have the there's an hour wall sort of thing, so it's not undoable at all.
All right. Yeah, today just really kind of became a crunch when they sent me those texts. Like, I can do it, but yeah. So I was watching Beavis and Butthead right when that came in, and I had just enough time to do that, take notes, and watch Lower Decks for tonight.
Yeah, at all at regular speed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes I cheat and hit the speed up button. I did not for this, but
no, I tend to find that if I speed up it, I can't pay attention to that and take notes. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
but at normal speed, I can.
Well, Luke, I guess we'll just jump on into it then.
In the year 1998.
We just let you do that for 24 years now, right? Is that how this works?
Just do that for an hour. We got a podcast.
Yeah.
Please tell me that's the intro. That was great.
Oh yeah, we start every episode with "in the year."
Excellent.
Yeah. Of course, the weird thing is we are looking at 2022 with Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, which I guess this actually is the first new content since '98, which blew my mind a touch.
Just about. There's been some minor things. There was a season floating around in 2011.
Oh, okay. So it's not a complete cold spell. Anyway, the movie certainly convinced me that it was. Hi, this is Matt here.
This is Luke.
It's a sci-fi sanctuary. We've already introduced the movie. Let's introduce the guest. Hi, it's Charlynn Schmidt from the Mission Log Live podcast and many other Trek podcasts. And you were on my Twilight Zone one and brought up Beavis and Butthead, so I was not even aware of this. And I was like, oh God, I have to watch that. And I was like, oh, it's sci-fi enough. We got a podcast. And I was like, well, I should probably invite you to talk about it. We were about to do this solo on the mountain yesterday, but then we would have just ended up going for about an hour. So,
I mean, isn't that most Beavis and Butthead podcasts? At least the ones that I've listened to over the years, that's all they do is their finest impressions. Nothing wrong with that. But you know what, especially with this movie, there's some good stuff to chew on here. There's some things to talk about. And so, yeah, hi, thank you for having me on the show. I am stoked to be talking Beavis and Butthead. It's not something I get to do very often. And with this being a sci-fi podcast, I'm really curious as to where this discussion is going to go. Because this is Beavis and Butthead do sci-fi. Scientific accuracy is not going to have any part of this equation.
Yeah, don't let Neil deGrasse Tyson on this one.
No. He won't stand it for 5 seconds.
I just was it several days later? It's like, oh, they ran out of air like 3 days ago, folks.
Yeah, the space logistics aren't exactly, what's the word, accurate in any respect, shape, or form. But you know what? It's a means to an end. It's the vehicle that tells the story. That's what we have to care about here. So if you haven't watched this yet, one, go watch it and suspend your disbelief and then come listen to us.
But yeah, I guess we should talk a little bit about where Beavis and Butthead is in our life, because I saw Do America on opening night, but I was also in this thing where we didn't have cable. So to see Beavis and Butthead, I'd have to be at a friend's house. Or I think I think someone loaned me the VHS where they just, recorded like the narrative bits and edited out all the videos and stuff. And I watched that, but it was kind of like definitely like everyone knew what it was. It was big in the 90s, but it was also like slightly inaccessible for me, which I don't know, I guess made it more charming.
It made it more desirable. Sure, I felt that way about South Park when it first came on the air. We did not have Comedy Central, even though we had cable. Our just provider didn't have it at that time. So that was to be coveted.
But it is a very like kind of American thing, I think. So this is where we bring in Luke, because Luke, I was going to say you would be maybe too young to have done Beavis and Butthead in their prime, but I guess about 8 years old is about the right age for a boy getting into Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, but I'm British,
right?
So like I don't think we had MTV as you would know it. I do remember seeing Beavis and Butthead Do America on like my uncle's VHS and not really getting it. And I was vaguely aware of Beavis and Butthead as a thing that maybe like my auntie and uncle found funny. But yeah, I mean, my nostalgia for the 90s is entirely different because I'm that bit younger. So yeah, this was the first time I'd given Beavis and Butthead a moment's thought in 23 years.
How did it land for you?
So I was all prepared because I'd remembered Beavis and Butthead as basically just the and no jokes. And I was waiting to come in here and be like, I don't understand why you Gen Xers like this, but actually it was pretty funny.
Well, good. Glad you liked it.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Judge, definitely is kind of like divisive, I guess. I mean, again, He did Idiocracy, which is an extremely divisive movie from like several kinds of division. So
I feel it's sort of like Seth MacFarlane's humor, where you either get it and you're laughing your ass off, or you're just not into it at all.
Yeah, that sounds fair. And I will say, like, I never got King of the Hill. I'm from the South. I mean, not Texas, but I'm from the Southeast. So you'd think I'd like, maybe it was because I was used to seeing that stuff, so I didn't like seeing on TV. I don't know.
Maybe.
Like, Hank Hill was a few doors down for my house. So, Shar, what's your trip with Beavis and Butthead? I think you have a more intensive one.
It goes pretty far back, and I started almost from the beginning. I was not aware of it in 92, like when it was on Liquid Television, and it was just the shorts of like Frog Baseball and a couple of others. I did get into it though, like in 93, and that would have put me in the 6th grade, meaning my mom was okay with me watching it, but my sister, who was 5.5 years younger, not allowed to watch it. And that was also when Beavis and Butthead was making all the news stories, because there was a lot of controversy about this show. A lot of people were upset that MTV was airing this, and there was this whole thing where a kid played with fire because this 2-year-old saw Beavis and Butthead, and it was a whole thing. Look it up, guys. It was crazy, and I loved Beavis and Butthead. I knew the disclaimer. I had that just embedded in my head. They're not role models. Don't do what they do. They're cartoons. Blah 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 blah. Like, you didn't have to tell me that. So it was just fun to watch them being stupid. And as the years have gone on, I've only come to appreciate them more because there is an art to writing these characters, because they are so stupid in a way that's charming.
Yeah, sure. No, I was actually talking to Luke yesterday, where I was like, for me, the fact that it's basically been dry. I mean, you mentioned there's some 2011 stuff, but to me, it's like you would see Beavis and Butthead stuff like in your mall store along with The Simpsons and South Park, and I just kind of had in my head that it was a legacy thing, which isn't entirely true. I
mean, it is, but it isn't. Everybody remembers Beavis and Butthead being from the 90s, but there were a couple of times that it showed up. Like, I remember they did a quick thing for the 2005 VMAs. That's not something you're going to catch unless you're still watching MTV, or if you come across it on YouTube. There was the season in 2011. And then Mike Judge brought Beavis and Butthead back for Portugal the Man, some concert feature. Like, the artist asked him to do it, and Mike Judge realized he could still do the voices, and he thought, and that got the ball rolling.
That's the charm of voice acting, right? I mean, you can have James Earl Jones, who's 90, doing some Vader again in some Star Wars, right?
Sure. Yeah. I think the thing is, for Mike Judge, is the Beavis voice. It's so gravelly, and it has to come from deep within your throat. I'm sure after a while that gets painful, or at least it gets harder to do.
Throat spray or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think in Japan, there's a lot of things in Japan where they'll like use the images, but they don't really know the property. But I'm pretty sure we don't see any of Beavis and Butthead
No,
because
I've seen a
they
Beavis and
aren't cute.
Butthead T-shirt,
Okay.
and I was
Uh,
I was like, oh wow, Beavis and Butthead, and the kid's like, I don't know, my dad bought me this. I don't know what this is.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh no, that's common in
'Cause-
Japan. It's like, oh, you like The Shining, or like, what's that? That's the shirt you're wearing.
Just a bunch of pop culture references you have no idea.
Right. Well, you go to Uniqlo and they always have like an arrangement of what, like this line of t-shirts. And, I walk in, I'm like, holy crap, it's like Capitol Records from the 60s t-shirts. That's awesome. But, other people are just like, I need a shirt, and they buy it. So,
All right, cool. It kind of sounds like Hot Topic or Spencer's Gifts here in the States.
oh, yeah, that's where I would be looking for the Beavis stuff for sure. But I haven't even been in the States for 12 years. So I don't know do you even have malls in the States anymore?
Sort of, not many. It's not that much of a thing anymore. And the ones that are left, I haven't been to a mall in a long time. I really can't tell you how they're doing.
Yeah, I went to the mall on Sunday, man. When it was packed.
Are malls still a big thing in Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
People buy things online, but I guess that's the chance to get out on a weekend, right? So,
Sure.
if you want to go somewhere, that's a place to go. Or you walk to the samurai school like Luke did, according to your picture.
Yeah.
That's fun too. As we dive down, I guess, Luke, if you will give us a plot for this one.
I will indeed. I'm not going to try and do the voice. Beavis and Butthead burned down their science fair back in the 90s, and in a misguided attempt to straighten them out, they're sent to NASA Space Camp. Messing around with the probe, they're asked to go on a mission to a black hole, but they misinterpret it as an invitation to score with astronaut Serena. They mess everything up and get dumped into the black hole. They emerge in 2022. Pursued by Serena, who wants to kill them, and the feds, who want to dissect them, they bumble through college, prison, phones, and their own multiversal selves. Eventually, one Beavis does score, and the multiverse rejoices.
You get the medal. Everybody gets a medal. That's great.
Yes.
Apart from Chewie.
Yeah, I was just thinking because at the school we work at, we've been given. Oh, yeah, except for Chewie. Yeah, didn't they eventually give him one in like a different movie or something?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, they did it.
To America. Doesn't President Clinton give them something from the ATF?
Oh, yeah. Okay, they get medals too before. Oh, I was referring to Luke's quick Chewie reference there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but it was a complete non sequitur, so don't worry.
Beavis and Butthead are in high school. They give you medals for everything in high school, right? I don't remember high school.
I don't know. I didn't get that many.
Are they junior high? I feel like
No.
No, okay. I've never quite
No,
put
it's
my
high
finger
school.
on. Okay. I don't quite remember, but yeah. I'm
Yeah,
sitting here.
I'd place them about like 15, so maybe freshmen.
Okay, that seems about right. Yeah, because they're definitely not seniors.
Oh no. They'll never get there.
Half the height of the character they want to have sex with.
Well, that's why they're a team. I'm looking at the starring roles. Of course, Mike Judge. I mean, we talked about him already. The only other name that's really sticking out on here is Gary Cole, which definitely sticks out. But
yeah, they got Gary Cole. There is one voice that I recognized instantly and just about flipped in this movie, and that would be Tig Notaro.
Oh, really? Okay, she's in here.
She plays the university professor who explains white privilege to the boys, and that, in my opinion, is the best scene in the whole movie because of the way that is played.
That gag was so really good. Funny.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
so good.
Rewatch that scene just now that I know who's doing the voice, because I didn't pick it up.
It's her.
And if for anyone that's not quite well, for us Trekkies, she was on Discovery as the engineer that just pops up when her schedule's open, I guess.
Pretty much. I mean, Tig Notaro is pretty popular right now, so I'm just thrilled they get her at all. Although I would love to see more Jet Reno. Would love to. She's so good.
Well, I just love how clearly, I mean, she was in like an episode near the end of last season or whatever, but generally it seems like she just shows up at some point. They shoot like 5 or 6 scenes and sprinkle them around the season, which is pretty funny.
That does seem to be what they actually do. Yeah, especially with COVID filming.
Right. So it's kind of like a little stand-up routine in the middle of a Star Trek episode. But okay, I didn't catch that though. Yeah, I did catch Gary Cole because they blast his name right at the beginning. But yeah.
Yes.
The various little bit parts are played by people I've seen and stuff, but not worth going into.
But yeah, I guess we usually talk about actors here, but it's probably, I mean, it's just this isn't really one you can do that with, I guess.
It's not like Do America where you have Bruce Willis and Demi Moore and like Robert Stack and all these names that people know.
Well, the franchise does not currently have the pool of that. I mean, it could get it again for all I know, but yeah, it's just like, it's like if the Muppets wanted to do something now, they might have a little trouble.
It would probably be kind of like this, right?
Yeah,
where they do a movie, but it's direct to streaming. There is no theatrical experience. And I gotta say, I miss that with this one. I mean, watching it at home is great, but part of the fun of Do America was going like you did to opening night and seeing it with a bunch of other people who like these guys. And I don't know, it's just cool to see a movie every now and then when you really care about the franchise or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, when it's Thing the movie, that's part of the fun. Is it's the thing I usually see on TV, but now I'm seeing it in the theater.
Exactly. And of course, I watched it a million times after seeing it in the theater a few times. But this one we'll probably never see in a theater, and that feels very sorely missed.
Yeah, I guess for Luke and myself, sometimes we have trouble tracking what's in a theater and what's not. Just because in Japan we just get like the big like blow them up films basically. So
okay,
like yeah, we get Marvel movies and Top Gun, and that's about it.
Like this
the summer
would,
blockbusters.
Yeah, this one would never play in Japan probably because I mean, well, the last thing to translate well is humor. I mean,
sure, yeah. I mean, how does Beavis and Butthead translate as far as cultural standards of humor?
Like it, yeah. I don't think that like this vibe would even compute in Japan.
Yeah, the whole concept would be outrageous to them because they take schools so seriously. Like Beavis and Butthead would be like horrendous delinquents. They they are the villains, the villains of the piece in Japan.
Well, I was thinking what would be a Japanese equivalent, and actually I took my daughter to that movie where I ended up having to sit in the lobby last month, which is Osomatsu-san, which maybe 20 years ago it was like sextuplets, like 6 boys, right, getting off to misadventures about 10 years old. So there's a new version which does have sort of that vindictive streak or whatever, where they're all like 10 years older and they're what is it, Frita, what is it,
neat
when you don't work and stuff in Japan.
Yeah. Free. Oh, I don't know the Japanese one, but last time you told me about it, you called them meat. That's literally what I said.
Yeah, it is. I heard meat. Sorry, okay. But yes, you're right. Okay. They're neat, which means they just stay at home. They don't get a job. They screw around. So like, one of them tries to get a job, and the others like all like attack him basically. So like, no, you can't do that. Or like, one's trying to sleep, and they're all like, no, we're all using our phones at 2 a.m. So that, I guess that's the closest equivalent you would get here. But then that wouldn't play well in the States because the main jokes in that are just like like butt jokes, like visual ones, as opposed to the as exciting as that is.
Whereas I don't know if American audiences would go for it full time.
I mean, there's some vomit in here, but mostly it's the language that's truly horrible with Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, it's them laughing about things they find funny, like, get off and docking maneuver.
Yeah, the docking maneuver is highly entertaining.
Yes, was.
You gotta love that they're savants just because they think it looks like intercourse. I mean, this is so on brand, so good.
Yeah, I certainly didn't feel like I was watching a rehash or a like failed reconstruction. I was like, oh, this fully is Beavis and Butthead. I mean, this. Yeah. There's really no excuse you need to make for this. So you like it or you don't.
You really do. Yeah, and I hope the reception has been good overall, because I think as a movie, it's not terrible, and it certainly does its job. It is a bridge. It's to bring people back in and lead up to, and I don't know if you have this in Japan yet, but we have in the States, at least, it's airing another new season of Beavis and Butthead, actual episodes with videos and all that.
When are the videos from? Are they going vintage or new? Do people make videos now?
The music videos are, I think, newer music, but they're not doing just that. They're also doing things like YouTube videos, TikToks, random internet things. And I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Like they did a thing to BTS. That was great. So they're really going for it.
Yeah,
they're
I guess
embracing 2022.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't have 15-year-olds sitting around not watching YouTube at this point. So,
right, they're not going to be watching a Soundgarden video anymore. That's just not the thing.
That's what I do at 2 a.m. No, I don't think I watch Soundgarden videos, but I'll get down strange YouTube rabbit holes, of course.
Who doesn't?
This is, I guess, with the sci-fi concepts and such here. This is part of our 2022 run through the multiverse, is it?
Yeah, multiverse is the big word at the moment in Hollywood for whatever reason.
We see a couple incarnations of Beavis and Butthead here.
Yeah, I feel like they just kind of stumbled into it with this one because we did Everything Everywhere and of course Doctor Strange. We have to compare those two, right? And then this one pops and it's just like, well, it's doing it also, but here I don't.
It's primarily a time travel thing. There's only really those other Beavis and Butthead are actual multiversal.
Right, but we get so many at the end. I guess it's just that everyone in that universe is a Beavis and Butthead, but
which I have questions about. I don't know if you guys do, but since these are smart Beavis and smart Butthead, are they the smartest of their species only because they're like the least inbred? Because everybody looks like them. What is going on?
There was a line they said, "We're the smartest Beavis and Butthead," but in the grand scheme of things, we're still not very smart.
Well, yeah.
I don't think that was a universe of Beavis and Buttheads. I think that was various Beavis and Buttheads from across the multiverse.
Oh, okay. I missed that part. I thought they were all the citizens.
No, I saw it as like a Rick and Morty Councilor Rick's thing.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, because if no one's scoring, where did they all come from, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was actually my thought at the end of the movie. It's like, well, if no one's scoring, where did they all come from?
My other question is, where is Serena? What is she doing in that multiverse? Is she going to possibly come back?
I think she's getting as far away as she can.
And do you blame her? But yeah.
That was
still on the run for wanting to kill people. So
not in that universe. I mean, come on. She didn't commit
any crimes in that
universe. Well, she's a hero in that universe. She enables medals to be given.
This is true.
But yeah, what else sci-fi we got a nice black hole. This is definitely in the post-interstellar vision of a black hole. so that's all well and good, but yeah, we do get to like the Twilight Zone, like interstellar distances. It's like, if that black hole is that close to Earth is kind of shafted.
Right. You're kind of done. And so is most of the rest of the solar system, pretty likely.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, all you have to do is be like, well, I'm watching Beavis and Butthead. So,
yeah.
Right. We really can't be taking this that seriously. And if you are watching Beavis and Butthead for scientific accuracy, I'm sorry, you need to watch a different show.
It wasn't the scientific accuracy, but the hurdle I had to get over is Beavis and Butthead don't make sense, because when they're talking to each other, obviously they are cognizant of what they're saying, but they're so oblivious and stupid to everything around them.
Yeah, that is part of the art.
Yeah, but once I accepted, okay, that's just how it works.
That is how it works. And especially in this new season, that's how it works, where they are so stupid that it's very rarely about them doing things. It's things happening to them and their reaction to that.
So eventually, the film it most reminded me of is Bean, the first Mr. Bean movie.
Oh, Mr. Bean.
Yeah,
okay.
Because he's just this force that exists. And everyone else can be a character who's written and stuff happens and whatever. But Mr. Bean just Mr. Beans through the movie. And that's the same here. Beavis and Butthead just Beavis and Butthead their way through the movie.
Yes.
And everyone else has to react and act in a way that makes sense. But they don't.
Right.
Nothing they do makes sense. And once I cottoned onto that, I was like, oh, okay, right. I can just sit back and just watch the nonsense. But at first, I'm just thinking, like, guys, when are you going to get it? And I'm like, oh, they're not going to get it. Won't. They're never going to understand anything.
They will not learn anything.
unravels the mystery at the end. That's fantastic. Almost a very
I mean, it kind
Agatha
of took her
Christie
long
ending.
enough, but she's that very typical politician in America at that point where everything centers around her and it's got something to do with her and she's got to save her ass.
Mm.
That's all she cares about.
I did notice the one dude mentioning like the East German training. I was like, what? I mean, in fact, great
He's obviously
line.
been around a little bit. Yeah, that's where you're overthinking, right? Where you have
Yeah.
so much knowledge from decades of living in your head that it doesn't make sense to most people because they're just not thinking like that.
I just thought it was fantastic that reference was out of date in 1998. So it's even more so now.
Definitely.
Like, where's this guy been? That's fantastic.
He probably thinks the KGB is still spying on him and stuff.
Oh, they are.
But maybe they are. Maybe they are. Maybe they really are. Which is why East Germany is still a thing in his head.
Right. The world is how you see it. It's all a matter of perspective.
You're talking about like the sci-fi concepts it uses, and the fact that a big subplot is like the feds want to dissect the aliens is so 90s.
Very much.
Right?
It really is.
I mean, that was such any kind of like fish out of water space alien comedy, that would be a plot. And you just don't see it anymore because it's so played out.
I kind of appreciated that as a 90s callback.
Yeah. This isn't the criticism. That was great. I think they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. But it was cool that I don't know, that they did that just because Beavis and Butthead is so 90s. It's almost like remembering where they came from.
Well, it felt like overall the film's kind of structure was more 90s than like a modern film.
That's true.
Just like bumbling through incident to incident. At the end, the status quo is just restored.
Road trip.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a road trip movie, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we still get those, but there is definitely like sort of a 90s strain of that. So well, what were you in high school? Were you a Beavis or a Butthead?
I guess I was a Butthead. Because you know my sense of humor is just if I can think of something funny, I'll say it, no matter how mean it is to my friends. So I've said some pretty horrendous things to people I like. So
you say the most insulting things to them, right?
Yeah,
that's what I do.
That's how you should express your love. True insults for.
Listen to the episode where Matt guested on my game show podcast, and you'll see how mean I can be to people I like.
All right.
Or you could just be the puzzler again. So he decided to be a Batman villain for an entire podcast.
Wow. All right, I'll have to check that out.
Decided isn't even the right word. It just kind of happened to me. Something went wrong in there.
It's like the amusement park ride, right? You know, something's going to happen, then something horribly goes wrong. So yeah, I had braces for 2 years. So I guess I had to associate with the Butthead because, I had dark hair and braces. Like, oh no, I've turned it. And I was 15. So it was like, that's the thing. It's like, oh, is this too real now? That's the trick with the Beavis and Butthead. I guess another fun question would be, how far have you driven in reverse?
Not nearly as far as they have. How about you guys?
I think I've driven that like a driveway, maybe.
I feel
that's the usual length. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've had to thread something ridiculous in Japan before because the streets are really tiny, and then you end up and there's a dead end.
Yeah, maybe I did have to mess around in some country lane back in the UK. I've definitely been in the car for that. I can't remember if I've been driving for that.
Sorry, I actually have a story for this. I drove backwards a lot more than this. This is in university. My university girlfriend, she was like near her house. It's like a normal suburb. She's like, there's this mansion. And she was like, let's go check it out. So we go and there's a gate and we go start driving up. And then these dogs start running out, like, Mr. Burns' hounds.
I was going to say, is it Mr. Burns' mansion?
Yeah, basically. So I start driving in reverse and then I bop the car into like one of the cinder like pillars or whatever, the gate. So then I drove backwards for like a good 30 seconds. So actually I've gotten a lot closer to this. I should admit. And I don't remember why I told my parents there was a dent in the back of the car, but it wasn't the truth. I remember that.
Thought your dad just found out.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was a 20-year-old car when that happened, so
No harm, no foul.
wasn't the end of the world. But yeah, I was like, you know, yeah, we were driving up to the rich people's house just to see it. But hey, I don't know, when you're 20, that sounds reasonable. Yeah.
Sure, of course.
Most damage I ever did to my parents' car was before I could even drive, because I borrowed a bigger kid's bike and I couldn't control it, and I just scratched the side of their car with a bike.
Oh no.
But okay, yeah, I didn't even realize I had such a fantastic answer while doing that.
I've got this big unifying theory that you can trace a straight line from Marty McFly to Beavis and Butthead. Where Marty McFly is like the original slacker hero. But you watch the film and it's like he plays guitar really well. He has a girlfriend. Even in the quote unquote bad version of his future, he has a job and a family and whatever. And then as the 80s burst and the 90s come in, our slackers go from like Marty McFly to Bill and Ted to like Wayne's World and finally to Beavis and Butthead. We're just like all of the charisma and charm and like having friends drops off, and like the nihilism just builds up until it's just like two complete losers who don't, their whole world is just sitting and chatting shit with each other.
Yep. That was the word I was thinking of, was they're losers.
Yeah,
but like Marty McFly, they tell you he's a loser, but he's not. Like,
not in comparison.
He's killing it. No. Yeah, he's doing all right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's not the rock star he dreamed of being, but other than that,
he's got the cracky voice. I don't know. Maybe that's what does it. Which is still light years more dealable than Beavis and Butthead's voices, of course, if you actually had to talk to these guys, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's not like the muscular Giga Chad, but other than that, he's doing fine.
Because I'm thinking, Bill and Ted, they're slackers. They do they need a time machine to do it, but they learn to shred eventually, right?
Yeah.
But Wayne when we puts meet on a massive concert. Yeah. Wayne's got to Wayne. I guess you got to put Wayne before Bill and Ted. Wayne's he's just got like bad hair, really. Yeah.
But, on the other hand, his only talent is just sitting on the sofa and talking into the camera, right? So
he can play the guitar.
Okay, but yeah, he can't shred like Bill and Ted.
You got Wayne stock, right? Yeah. Sorry,
I guess did Wayne stock.
While I was having my COVID, my hanging out in my room for COVID, I watched both Wayne's Worlds again twice.
Well,
nice.
Wayne is above Bill and Ted, but where's Garth?
Okay, Garth is there. We go. That's
so you put them as a pair, then yeah.
Yeah, Garth would really like to hang with Bill and Ted, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Well, Garth,
although Garth is super smart, he's a massive geek. He just is probably not going to ever mold his talents into being super successful.
Right.
At least by
Beavis
our standards.
Butthead world, he would basically end up being like, just to make a South Park comparison, he'd be the Butters of the group. Like just
kind of, but more intelligent. Yeah.
He'd be using his science stuff, and then horrible things would happen to him through no.
Maybe so. I could see. I kind of want to see like the South Park version of Garth now. That would be cool. He'd be cute.
I do like how this movie included the meme from a few years ago of what would Beavis and Butthead actually look like. So
that drawing. So
I mean,
great.
That's pretty normal in my nightmares, I think.
Well, I like that they pointed out that they're clearly not human, because everyone else in this is just like the Archer animated style, and then they're just Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. Oh, I got a question for you guys. In your version that you saw at the very beginning, like in the intro, did you get the 3D Beavis and Butthead?
Yeah, where they're flying a little spaceship and shooting the credits. Because
I was
worried that was going to be the whole film, when I was like, I don't like how this looks.
I was a little weirded out by it. I didn't like it either. And I was so relieved when they went back to 2D. Like, okay, this is Beavis and Butthead.
I guess we are starting to see a little more 2D animation creep back into American animation, because, in Japan, they got just like the boatloads of anime. So I'm sure it's computer like driven at this point, but it looks as that 2D look. But yeah, once once Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks just got, started to drown in the pool of 3D CGI or whatever. So
Yeah. It's kind of nice to see 2D coming back.
Anytime CGI is used for something it shouldn't be used, I'm always like, is this because the other option has a better union? Because that's usually the answer. That's why Marvel uses CGI instead of even doing makeup and stuff like that.
It just for that Watcher imagery. Yeah, last year they had the What If, which again, very computer driven animation, but basically 2D with
trying to look like an old comic book illustration, at least.
That's fine though, because I mean, I recently read a book about the history of animation. Yeah, old school animation is like impossible. They only did it then because there was no other choice.
Right.
I get it to an extent, but then when I'm watching like Dragon Ball, and the fights that they hand draw are just a million times better than the stuff they do on computers. But maybe that's just my 90s nostalgia. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do music, and I think I made the comparison before. I have like a proper vacuum tube amplifier for my guitar, like that I'm pointing at the moment. But I'm usually just going to go use my iPad and plug it into that because it's simpler that way.
Sure.
I just, it takes like 5 seconds, whereas now otherwise I gotta get the wires together, hope that wait for the tubes to warm up for a second, that sort of thing. So yeah, so where is the line between convenience and like keeping something real, so to speak?
I feel like this is pretty on brand though. As far as aside from that intro, it's consistently Beavis and Butthead. Maybe looks a little more refined, especially from those really earlier episodes where they were still trying to find the Beavis and Butthead look. There's certain things that stick out as like sometimes when they over exaggerate the animation, like that's very common with Hanna-Barbera cartoons. And I remember watching an interview with Mike Judge saying in those earlier days, he had to knock that kind of stuff out of the animators because he wanted them to be a little more blank and less expressive. And that was the antithesis to a lot of animation. And so when I see that sort of stuff on Beavis and Butthead, it sticks out like a sore thumb just because I know that wasn't the vision and it just seems really out of place. There is a moment in this movie too where I think that happens, and it wasn't even with the 3D stuff. It's where the foot kicks Beavis across the science fair and his face just, it bulges out. It's like, ah! And it's not in line usually with how Beavis is portrayed at all. And I wondered, did he just let that one go? Or
if you do it just like once, it kind of works, even in the context, right?
Maybe
like this is the time he got kicked so hard he actually reacted.
and that's kind of the conclusion I had to get to in my head too, to I guess rationalize it. Like this is the one and only time you get that one, and then you're done with it.
I mean, it was enough to burn down the science fair. That's a pretty big kick.
Yeah. Fire is very prominent in this movie.
What's the most horrible
I was going to ask how much did you and your friends kick each other in the nuts as kids, Matt?
I remember trying to get into a fist fight with someone just to see what a fist fight was like in the Boy Scouts. Like we weren't pissed at each other or anything. We were like, let's have a fist fight. Yeah.
Me and my friends did that all the time, but I also got into a couple of real fights. Whenever the concept of stepping on ants comes up with my students, I always show them these scars on my wrist and tell them, which is that I got them in a fight with a kid who was stepping on ants. Like, hey, stop stepping on them ants. No. And yeah, that ended in a fist fight where I had him in a headlock and he dug his nails into my wrists.
Ouch.
I almost had that happen in a class last week.
So yeah, I guess I would have beaten up Beavis if I knew him.
I had a kid, a 5-year-old student last week. He's trying to kick up a table. It's going to like go on top of all these girls. So I have to pull him out of there. And then he's like, just like kicking and screaming.
Jeez.
I was wondering if I was going to end up with a scar there.
Yeah, seriously. These children are dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need to tell us that.
They two teachers in unison with each other. I guess we don't quite have a Beavis and Butthead. I mean, again, like I said, this wouldn't show in Japan. I feel like there is no template for Beavis and Butthead
Well,
in other
I
cultures.
think Beavis and Buttheads do exist in Japan, but we wouldn't see them because we work in a cram school.
Yeah, good point. They wouldn't go there.
They wouldn't come to us.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking like we don't really have that stereotype in Japan so much. Like that's where I was saying that you were talking about. Oh, you're in the UK, so Beavis and Butthead don't hit so hard. What is there like a variant? I mean, you mentioned
it
Mr.
wasn't
Bean.
so much that because they didn't land; it's because we didn't have MTV.
Okay,
I think like people who saw Beavis and Butthead liked it. It just didn't come over here in the same way.
Okay, gotcha.
We do because we have. I'm trying to think what the difference is.
Because I've seen some UK stand-up comedians. I think watching even like Ricky Gervais doing stand-up or something, I'm like, I don't quite follow this, like why this is so
obviously
funny,
there is a comedy. There is a difference in comedy. I often don't find American comedy as funny. There's definitely like dryness is a big thing in the UK, but Beavis and Butthead is quite dry.
Yeah.
At least they themselves are.
But it's also very juvenile too.
Yeah. Oh, we can be pretty juvenile.
Yeah. I was going to say, Ricky Gervais's humor is kind of that way too sometimes.
It's that American kind of juvenile where they don't actually swear much. The British Beavis and Butthead would be like calling each other the F word and C word constantly.
Yeah.
That would be the difference. Because a few years later you get a few years later, like 10 years later. Did you ever catch The In-Betweeners, Matt?
I did not.
It's a British sitcom about lame high school boys who can't get laid. The difference is it's extremely vulgar in a way that Beavis and Butthead doesn't get close to.
Yeah, there's a weird innocence about Beavis and Butthead, I mean, it's almost
no one in the UK is innocent.
it's almost shocking that smart Beavis does score at the end. It's like
a
giant.
He never scores.
Exactly. I was actually for the UK stuff. I was going 10 years in the opposite direction, thinking of the young ones as sort of being in this vibe.
Possibly another difference is in the UK, like our drinking age is 18 and most people are drinking at like 15 or 16.
See, Beavis and Butthead would love that.
Yeah, whereas so like at Beavis and Butthead age, you're already going to house parties and getting drunk. So I think like by the end of high school, I don't think many people haven't scored.
Yeah, other than the bath salts, I can't really imagine these guys, drinking or doing any drugs.
Right.
So.
Well, they try. They try to get beer and drugs, but they're, again, too stupid to actually succeed at it.
Whereas, if you want to get drinks at that age in the UK, you just go into a pub and you order a meal and then you're allowed to buy a beer with it.
Yeah.
Somehow Beavis and Butthead would screw that up.
Yeah. Or you just tell your parents, I want to have a pint with my friends. Can I get some beer? And they'll probably buy you a crate.
Yeah, we have whole movies about that, right?
Yeah.
In America, trying to get around it.
Right.
But
so, I think there is just like, it's like high school for Americans. Sorry, college for Americans is stuff that Brits have all already done at high school.
Yes.
I think
from what I know, yes. It's like a weird rite of passage here. We're a little delayed. You guys are all over it.
Yeah,
and I think you have the right idea, to be honest. Like, I think the longer you try to hold back from, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all of that, the more alluring it is.
Well, like I had a friend who was my friend from like quite a young age, but when we would hang out around that age, he was very straight edge. So we would have like a sleepover and all night. We'd all stay up all night playing video games and messing around and drinking or whatever. He'd be like, oh no, I'm going to do my homework and go to bed at 11. And he was that guy all the way through school. And then he went off to college and I saw him 6 months later. And he's like the most notorious, dangerous party animal you'll ever meet.
See, that's what happens.
Yeah, we went on a trip and he ripped the radiator off the wall.
Gosh. So, holding back doesn't necessarily help. Now, you shouldn't.
If you're going to
extremes the other way, of course, in the same thing, but
if you're going to get super drunk for the first time, maybe it's best to do it in a house where your parents live and can make sure you don't die.
Yeah. Yeah. And that way you maybe get it out of your system a little bit too. Like the curiosity's gone at least.
Yeah.
I was just thinking
1 or 2 bad experiences, and then maybe you don't feel like. I'm going to assure you this
Hopefully you
isn't the
don't.
case. You do keep binge drinking for 10 years in the UK, but eventually you realize it's not good.
I mean, hangovers are not that much fun.
No hanger if you're never sober.
Ha!
hair of the dog. No, I was just thinking about, like teenagers flipping out on psychedelic drugs. And it's like, well, in like older cultures, they probably would have like, made a ceremony coming of age out of it, Here's
right?
Here's your wacky juice. We're kicking you out in the woods for the next 3 days. And if you come back, you're a man.
There you go. You trip on acid and you come back a changed person.
Yeah. But I don't see Beavis and Butthead doing that. So, I mean,
no.
They just as far as acquiring things, they can't manage it. They might want it, but they can't,
Exactly.
I guess the whole point is they don't live life. Like you said, everything happens to them. I mean, their life really is in front of that television. Anything else is an annoyance.
They have no idea what it is to actually go out and like have a plan to do something. They think they do, but there's a certain point where they have a thought and it stops. And it can't go any further. And that's why everything backfires on them and things happen to them because they just can't get over that hump. It's not in them.
So this is an interesting one to talk about how it's going to hold up.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, because it's like made specifically as a relic.
I'm really not sure how this movie is going to go down in the overall lore. Yeah, go down. Here we go. And now we've totally devolved.
Hey, we made it 45 minutes. It's pretty good.
Because it is a movie, and yet it didn't get the theatrical release. I didn't have a whole lot of fanfare. And I think a lot of that might ride on how the season that they're airing now goes. Apparently a second one is in the works. And then I guess from there, that largely depends on the reception, I'm guessing. And so if it's good and things keep going, maybe it'll kind of get better with age. Or if not, it might kind of be like that 2011 season that a lot of people think wasn't as great as classic Beavis and Butthead. I think there's some gems in there myself, but like overall, yeah, I see the point. But nevertheless, I was thrilled to have Beavis and Butthead at all. So that's kind of how I feel now.
Yeah, with this one, there's I think we're still at the tail end of the forgiveness zone for a movie for a movie not being in theaters because there was
COVID.
What are the ones that really Dune just made it out into the theater like by luck, but it was also on TV first, wasn't it, or streaming? I think so. Yeah, Dune.
It was on HBO Max like pretty quickly after or something.
Okay,
yeah, so yeah,
because they have like the 40-day window now. So being in a theater barely matters unless you're just into going to theaters, which some of us
I think enough people are because like films are still breaking billions again. So
yeah,
that's also because tickets cost like $50.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's why I don't go to the theater very often, but I would go see Beavis and Butthead if they bring it to the screen.
You need like the 4DX experience where they spray water in your face through the entire movie.
I'm not sure that's something you'd want out of a Beavis and Butthead movie.
Just nacho cheese and
vomit.
That's what they do. Spray nacho cheese.
Oh God, that was okay. Sorry, I was like, yeah. My preteen snack was the jalapeno cheese dip, Cool Ranch Doritos, and Dr. Pepper, which must be the most unhealthy thing possible.
I'm pretty sure that's the majority of Beavis and Butthead's diet.
Are you grabbing the most unhealthy thing ever, Luke?
Just
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper. Where's your nachos?
I don't have nachos. I got a shitload of candy left over from watching horror movies with my friend and wanting to eat Halloween sweets.
Nice. That qualifies. They do that.
A little early. A lot of people get into Halloween early these days, so it's like that's getting.
Well, it was actually like
Halloween.
10 months late because we missed last Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So, do people have to have lived through the 90s to enjoy this? I don't know.
That's a good question for Gen Z.
because I'm younger than you guys, but I was born in 1990, so I did see the whole 90s. Because there are gags in here which are just funny jokes, right? Like the whole bit with the white privilege is a really funny subversion. That was I just didn't see it coming. They're like, "Did you think you'll change your behavior?" I guarantee it.
I mean,
and
that's
it's not at all what you think they mean.
That's the power of good comedy. Because if MSNBC wants to tell you that message, we're in Karen territory. But here you make the point, and it's funny and it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and what they do with it, I mean, really, it's making some social commentary, but it's also hilarious at the same time. It's just so brilliantly done.
Yeah, well, that's the whole film, because it obviously the whole Beavis and Butthead 90s shtick of his two losers who want to get laid. You know, I don't think you'd make that in 2022. But they managed to do it in a way where it's not super judgy, but the film is still saying, like, yeah, this is lame.
Right. Right. They found a way to make that work in 2022, which I think was one of the biggest questions people had when I think it was about a year out. Mike Judge announced that Beavis and Butthead were coming back. I think it's San Diego Comic-Con or something like that. Like, okay, was not expecting that just because the times really are different. Do Beavis and Butthead belong in our culture? And the answer is yes. There's plenty of things for them to comment on. Is it a little different? Yeah, but not extremely. Not at all.
One thing that definitely had me thunking a little bit is when they do show the modern Beavis and Butthead. Oh, you would have lived the 24 years. I'm like, man, it looks like they're 50 years down the line there.
They have not aged well.
No. Which I mean, that's a funny joke, but I wonder if that's almost like a meta joke. Like,
if the show started in 92, that would be 30 years ago. So they would be like 45.
They look like they're 70, right?
Well, they sat on their sofa and ate nachos that whole time.
Yeah, good point. They're not that much nachos and cheese dip will do that to you. So
plus it does look like they did eventually get their hands on some beer and some vaping and cigarettes.
Yeah. But he already had the walker, right? I'm like,
right.
Late
yeah,
30s,
Butthead's got the
40s.
Scooter.
Of course, so
they're not doing terribly well.
No. Well, they're not leaving the couch anyway, so who cares? I just like those guys are cool.
Yeah.
Well, as we're winding this down, Shara, thanks for joining us today. I guess you can plug what you're going to do after this podcast then.
I'm going to go watch Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, plug. Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. This was a lot of fun. I love talking about Beavis and Butthead. Normally I'm talking Star Trek, and you can find me doing that on Mission Log Live every now and again. I've done some Star Trek podcasts. If you want to look me up, my handle is the profanity on Twitter, and that's the best way to chat me up.
Ruve, and thanks for coming in today. Luke, you wanna do our thing?
If you enjoyed this podcast, we're on Twitter at MLSFS158. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just make sure you search Matt and Luke Sci-Fi Sanctuary. Give us a 5-star rating and a review and all of that jazz, and tell your friends. And if you want to help support the podcast, you can go over to patreon.com/podcastio. And even if you don't want to support, go to that website to find links to the other podcasts me and Matt create.
Support.
Yeah, you need the support.
Are you going somewhere with that?
No, I'm just going to keep giggling until you cut.
Oh, okay. Now I cut there.
Just like they would 5 minutes later.
Yeah, really. I think we've had that happen before. Okay. I think we got you some time to get some dinner then.
All right. Yes, I do have ample time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And
yeah, thanks for joining us.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on the show.
Word up. We will chat with you again. Let me get the